and welcome to the entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas. This is round 22 of the F1 World Championship, and we have 3 races left and just 24 points between title rivals Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. So, as temperatures plummet and the rain has fallen, what will unfold on the infamous, iconic strip? Are Red Bull favourites? And can Max Verstappen stay in title contention? Let's get this party started. Welcome along to your weekend warm-up. Hello and welcome to the paddock here in Las Vegas. Welcome to the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Alongside me, Barretto, Ruth Buscombe and James Hinchcliffe. We're all wrapped up pretty warm. It's not what we usually see come a weekend warm-up. Usually the weather doing the warming for us. Not here. James, how excited are you to be here in Las Vegas, and what challenges lie ahead?
I'm so excited to be back here. I know we've only been here twice before, but we've had 2 really exciting races in the ones that we've run. This week, this year, I mean, it's as up in the air, I think, as it's ever been. No one's quite sure what's going to happen. A lot of really close battles. Challenges, it's the temperature. It's getting these tires in the right window. It's avoiding the walls. You know, there's going to be very low grip out there. It's going to be a real challenge, teams, for drivers, engineers, everybody. It's going to be fun to watch. And
it's been raining as well, Ruth. We don't often see rain here in Las Vegas. How do you think that will affect, certainly looking at the practice sessions coming into tomorrow?
Well, at the moment, it looks like the rain has gone and it should stay dry. And the thing is, actually, compared to a lot of other tracks, it has a much less of an impact because most of this track is open to the cars overnight. So we get a full track reset anyway. So I think it's more going to be the temperatures and the track surface itself, lowest grip of the entire season rather than the rain. Fingers crossed.
And Lawrence, the vibes here are just extraordinary, aren't they? From the minute you land to the minute we leave, this whole place just lights up with Formula One.
It's great. It's like an assault on your senses, and they've properly leveled up. Yeah, exactly, all the time, 24/7. I guess we're in Vegas, right? But they've really leveled up around the place. You can see within the paddock. I saw Mickey Mouse walking around earlier. It just feels like they're taking this event from strength to strength. And like Hinch said right at the beginning, we've had great racing here, and there's no reason to think that that won't be delivered again this weekend.
And look, the championship is in an incredible place. Lando Norris on a real run, isn't he? Where is the momentum, do you feel, between Lando, between Oscar? What's he learned in recent races?
Well, it's so interesting, right? Even Lando himself said that he doesn't really believe in momentum, and I kind of get it because it can swing so quickly. It wasn't that long ago he was 34 points behind, and everyone was sort of saying Oscar can kind of cruise to the title at this point. That's anything but. So 24 points, it's not a bad place to be with 3 rounds to go, but he's not comfortable yet. He's not sleeping better because of it. He's got to stay focused, just keep doing what he's doing, control what's in his control, and kind of see where it shakes out. But I think at this type of track, again, he's going to have maybe a bit of an advantage over Oscar because of those low grip conditions. We talked about it in Mexico, we talked about it in Austin, and that's just what he needs. It doesn't matter where he finishes as long as it's ahead of Oscar.
But I guess, do McLaren have the advantage coming in this weekend? That's the question. They certainly seem to, in the hands of Lando Norris in Brazil last time out. Here's what happened at the Sao Paulo Grand Prix.
Welcome to the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. From the pit lane, Max Verstappen, everything is possible. The Sao Paulo Grand Prix is underway. Antonelli does not get the launch off the line. That is such a shame for Gabriel Bortoleto.
Don't push me out.
Whoa, Hamilton trying to pull out of the slipstream. We've got a safety car.
Safety car is in this lap.
Here he goes, but I don't think there's going to be much breathing room. 3 wide, how brave is Piastri feeling? He hits Antonelli, who hits Charles Leclerc.
That's classic Interlagos.
For sake, what happened?
That looks like the Verstappen that we've seen, laid on the brakes, making the move.
He's absolutely flying today.
He's been called in. They cannot work on the car for 10 seconds. This will be agony for Oscar Piastri.
Norris is doing enough out front. Verstappen's on the charge.
Russell hugging the inside line, and Max Verstappen getting by. Verstappen closing in on Antonelli. Antonelli is giving it everything. Lando Norris wins. Max Verstappen from the pit lane to the podium.
Keep pushing.
Lando Norris, a key win in his quest for the title.
Brazil was an absolute cracker. Interlagos so often delivers brilliant racing, and so it did again. And a perfect weekend for Lando Norris. You feel at the time he needed it most. He's peaking at exactly the right moment in this season. I think my big question watching from home was in listening to Lando Norris saying he's blocking out all the external noise, he's just focusing on the processes, was how. It's very easy to say you're doing that, but how on earth as a driver do you actually manage to achieve that?
It's a great question, yeah. I mean, every driver's a little bit different. I don't know if Lando works with a coach on that sort of thing, but, staying away from the press, staying away from social media, only focusing on the team, and I think Brazil was such a great example of how far he's come even just within this year with that Q3. I think a lot of people have talked about it. That mistake in the first run when he's had the pressure on him, he was the guy expecting to be on pole, and then he pulled it out. I mean, and he didn't just get pole by a little bit. I mean, he really did a great lap on that second run when the pressure was on, led every session that mattered. I mean, it was a truly impressive performance. So he doesn't believe in momentum, but you can believe in confidence, and he definitely has that right now. I think he's proved to himself and the world that he can brush those issues aside and just get the job done on the racetrack. And as you say, the timing of it's absolutely perfect.
And Lawrence, you speak to him straight after a race like that in the pen. It feels to me that his highs are now slightly lower, they're slightly steadier, but his lows are higher. There's an even keel to the way he reacts. It's almost a champion's mindset he seems to have found himself in.
Yeah, I think he's really taken that approach to maybe hunker down a little bit and not really show much emotion. And that's very Lando, really, because I think in the highs previously, he couldn't stop smiling. And even on the bad days, he would smile. And I think he's taken himself away from the public eye in a way. He's almost not even being present when he's talking to the media because he just wants to keep that even keel. And it's had a really positive effect. And he's been working on these little details all year. He spent so much more time in the simulator. He spent so much more time with the team back at the factory. And I don't think we really saw the gains from that early in the year. But he kind of just said, look, don't worry, it's coming, it's coming. And even the team was saying the same sort of things. So I think it's just at that critical point when he's got the confidence in his car, he's able to do that kind of thing that he was doing in quali. And I guess confidence just builds. And you've just seen that with him. And I know it's maybe a bit odd to not see him celebrate properly celebrate. But I think that's what really might make the difference in this fight, or at least that's what the people around him are telling him to do.
I find it extraordinary how the pendulum can swing and the way we are talking about these two drivers can swing so quickly. Because, Ruth, you mentioned the low grip being such an issue here in Las Vegas. That is not what Oscar Piastri will want to hear. How do you think he can combat that, adapt his driving style?
Well, everything we've seen so far means with difficulty. Want to be able to see whether or not his disadvantage in the low grip conditions is offset by his advantage in graining. And I think that's the one advantage he's got over his teammate, but maybe not over other teams.
Yeah, Lando Norris was saying how much of a nightmare he finds graining, and that is definitely going to be an issue here. He spoke really openly in the press conference earlier. Let's hear a little bit from him now.
Everyone knows my approach is still just one race at a time, and I'll treat it like that till the very end. So I'm enjoying the places I'm going. I'm enjoying the people I'm doing it with. I'm certainly, enjoying every session, going out and obviously always trying to win. It's always sweeter when you end up on the podium or you can win the race. It's always a better feeling because that's what we all want. So it's been a good few races recently. And it is hard at times, I think, when you're fighting and you're in the position that we're in at the moment as a team, between Oscar and myself, to sometimes step back and realize what you're doing. You're so just in the moment, in the headspace of what can I do next time out? What can I do in practice, quali, the race, whatever. You don't often step back and go, I'm in Formula One, I'm fighting for the championship, I'm traveling the world. You forget those things sometimes just because your mind is so buried in terms of what you're trying to achieve and trying to achieve it. So, but the moments, when you get reminded of it or you do take a step back, it's pretty insane because I'm lucky to be here and even lucky to get to fight for the positions that we're fighting for.
Well, McLaren aren't just looking at each other in this title fight. You've got to believe that if anyone is still in it, even at 49 points back, Max Verstappen is. What a performance, guys, from him in Interlagos. Hinch.
I mean, arguably more impressive than his drive from 17th to 1st in the wet the year before.
Yeah, where does it rank in this season for you?
Oh, best drive of the year. for sure. I mean, in a dry race, didn't have a safety car help him out, had a puncture, kind of got off strategy, three-stopped, and he finished 10 seconds behind. You know, I made the joke after in the post-show that, you know, Lando, kind of to your point, Lawrence, about how he's not celebrating the same way. He got out of the car and was like, I cannot believe that we were only 10. I wish we had won by more. And I kind of made fun of him at the time. I'm like, no, he's right, actually. He probably should have been at least 20, 30 seconds up the road. That drive from Max was absolutely divine. And you can't help but think that Red Bull's kicking themselves for not kind of going down that setup route earlier in the weekend. They brought a development part. They were trying to make it work. It didn't work. They reverted, started from pit lane, and look what the result was. So on the basis of that, you got to think they're coming here with the strongest car. They're the only top team that's been developing it, you know, since the summer break, and Max is Max.
And you've also got a question, if they hadn't brought him in, could it have been a P2 fighting for the win? I think that was kind of in the balance, wasn't it? But the 3 stop for Max Verstappen, pit lane to P3, extraordinary stuff. How confident are they here, Ruth? Because I'm guessing with these long straights, you can take a bit of downforce off the car, and we know that the Red Bull starts to sing when you do that.
Yeah, so obviously last year they made the tactical decision, that is an official term, to not make that skinny rear wing, you know, cost cap. Teams have to work out where they want to put their budget. This year they have a different choice. So they have this beautiful skinny rear wing. We've seen it work so well whenever we've had dry racing, places like Monza, Spa, even Silverstone, you know. And so I think if you were going to a casino and betting right round here on the streets of Las Vegas, you've got to put your money right now on Red Bull for the win at this track. But turn 1 here, the race start. We had a really quiet turn 1 last year, but I think every driver wants to get through that one.
And just quickly coming to you, Lawrence, on the driver market, on Yuki Tsunoda, what do we know about his future? I spoke to him in the pen earlier and he said, look, that post-Mexico deadline wasn't true, didn't happen. They're still making a decision. I've got to get my head down and do what I can every weekend. What can he do? What does he have to prove?
Well, I think it was Yuki's form in parts, because it has improved, and Liam Lawson's form that kind of forced them to delay the decision, because ultimately they've got them all down on contract. They know that they've got those drivers to choose from, so there is no rush. So I think they wanted to give Yuki a bit more time to show it. I felt a bit for Yuki today, because he was like saying, I've got the pace to deliver, I'm just not getting the points to like prove it. And ultimately he's going to have to get those points if he's going to prove to them, if he doesn't get the Red Bull seat, that he stays on in that race Bull seat. But I don't think we're going to get a decision on that until closer to Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, and of course Red Bull are also in the fight for P2 in the championship, remarkably, at the moment as well. Let's hear from Max Verstappen then. He spoke in the press conference earlier on.
Of course, yeah, I would have liked to start more up front, but at the same time it was fun. I had a good time out there, you know, racing through the pack and fighting basically until the final lap. Of course it was for P2, but it was still, I had good fun, and I hope that we can be competitive this weekend.
Now, the championship. You are 49 points behind Lando. You're the outsider, but you're never going to give up. How are you approaching these last 3 races and the title fight?
Same as always. Doesn't really change. I mean, it's a lot of points, so I'm not really thinking about it too much. Because there's also not much that I can do. We need a lot of luck now till the end to even have an opportunity. So I personally, I don't think about that.
I think come the predictions, there may well be a few for Max Verstappen in this lineup here. On to Ferrari. They slipped down to P4 in the constructor standings, a double DNF in Sao Paulo. It was a torrid weekend for the team, made worse by some comments by Ferrari chairman John Elkann. Lawrence, what was said? Why was it said? How have the team responded?
So John said in the wake of that double retirement, the third of the season, that the drivers should focus on the driving and less talk. Now, Lewis in the TV pen afterwards had said it was a nightmare weekend, which, based on what happened, is probably fair. But there was a lot of criticism, I think, publicly about how that went down, because obviously it's very negative. Now, Lewis and Charles put some messages out on social media almost immediately and said, look, we're unified as a team. The team said that John's comments were supposed to be positive, trying to encourage the team, galvanise the team to go forward. And I think there was just, the team were trying to sort of salvage what John had said and tried to make it into a positive message.
That united front was on show once again in the pen earlier on. I spoke to both drivers.
I don't think Lewis is struggling at all to find his place in the team. I think there's a really good relationship with Lewis and the team, and again, everybody is doing their best. And of course, at the beginning of the year, it's been difficult because we were expecting a lot, and it was less good than what we wanted. But we've reacted well as a team, and again, I think we are all united in trying to bring back Ferrari to the top, and that is what's most important. Again, as I said, we speak regularly with John, and that's what we've done as well after Brazil. And really, the message is that we need to do our absolute best in order to turn that situation around. But there's no hard feeling whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, we've just been focused on doing our job back at the factory, so everyone's super focused on improving. And I mean, I speak to John every week, so we have an amazing relationship, and the passion has not disappeared from our team. So yeah, we've obviously got a steep hill to climb, but we want to finish off strong this year.
So both drivers keen to emphasise their relationship with John Elkann, but what does this say about a culture within Ferrari and the impact of such comments made publicly, James?
Well, it's interesting. You know, you see the reaction from the general public to those comments, and if they weren't kind of voiced in private to the team and to the drivers ahead of time, if the team and the drivers heard about it the same time we did in whatever article that was, there would have been some panicked phone calls afterwards. I mean, that's a management style. That's a way to do it. Try to motivate the group after, a very tough weekend, but it's got to come with some context. And I think if it was just coming out in an article, the drivers, like everyone else, would have taken it maybe that little bit of a wake-up call. But you got to remember, I mean, Charles was out of position, frankly, in qualifying. He was higher up than he should have been, was racing for a podium. He got taken out by something completely outside of his control. Hard to really criticize the driving in that sense. So I think the intent behind the message was good. Maybe the delivery came up a bit short, but ultimately, that's one of the tightest teams, one of the tightest cultures, really, of any team in Formula One. So interesting situation, and again, they just got to get their talking done on the racetrack now.
Yeah, Charles was asked about the impact of it being done so publicly, and he said it was meant to galvanise, it was meant to be passionate, and it shows John's ambition, and Lewis Hamilton backed that up. Talking on track, I like that. Ruth, how will they get that done this weekend? Because Charles Leclerc loves this track, and typically you look at it, it's been a Ferrari track of the past.
Yeah,
I say the past, there's been 2 editions of this race.
50% of all the polls.
There we go.
It's not bad. Charles is great when he comes to these street circuits. He's really good on the low grip tracks. I think what we've seen time and time again is that Ferrari isn't really a bad car anywhere. It's just not the best car in any one arena. They're always the bridesmaid, never the bride vibe.
Jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I do think they'll be there, and I think that they should be there, and I think especially Charles, but even Lewis, he's got a bit of a buzz about him, stunning helmet. So I think it will be an interesting one.
There are some amazing liveries and helmets. Just quickly here this weekend, Lewis Hamilton's is an absolute stunner. You're right. The Williams livery though is special. It's good.
Racing Bulls has a pretty cool looking one.
Yeah, it's like a holographic one, isn't it?
Yeah, and then the helmets. You mentioned Lewis. Lando's got one celebrating his 150th Grand Prix with McLaren, which is a bit of a milestone for him as well. So I love when people do this stuff up for Vegas. They do it for Miami, they do it for Monaco. I love these things.
Anyway, a segue into the aesthetics of Formula One, which we also love here on F1 TV. James, speaking then of this track suiting Ferrari, potentially, it has of races gone by, Mercedes. They have very much taken control of P2 in the standings so far. As I said, 36 points now ahead of Ferrari and P4 with Red Bull just a smidge in front of that. So is this still a Mercedes track, do we think?
It's a tough one to answer. There's a few things maybe pointing to no, because what made them so dominant here last year was their ability to put the heat into the tire, which was actually causing the tire to overheat at a lot of other racetracks. So they worked hard on kind of negating some of that, mitigating some of that, which I think might take away some of that advantage. And then you look at the fact that weekend to weekend, we're not quite sure where Mercedes is going to be. They've been quick at tracks this year that they weren't last year and vice versa. It's kind of hard to know any given weekend where they're going to show up. And then, of course, every other team will have improved. They would have been, it was a pretty thorough beating that Mercedes put on the field last year. So everyone else will be working hard to try to close that gap. So I don't think it's a slam dunk that they're going to be the team to beat. George is always great around here. Kimmy's always great at new circuits, so they could be in contention. But I still think they're going to have less of an advantage for sure.
Yeah, on that Kimmy point, that he seems, when he knows the tracks really well, Lawrence, through the European part of the season, to have sort of shrunk a little under perhaps the expectation and the pressure there. He comes to tracks he doesn't know, and he's been brilliant. What do you think's clicked for him?
I'm not sure where there's probably some psychological thing there, isn't there, where maybe you don't have the pressure to know that you have to deliver because you're supposed to know the circuit and you're supposed to deliver. I just think that something's clicked with Kimi where ever since Toto said that his performance was underwhelming in Monza, that must have lit some sort of fire underneath him, and he has just put in it's not just the consistency, but I think from the start of the weekend, Friday, getting comfortable with the car, not overdriving the car, and that gives him confidence through the weekend. It's all those little things that it's not about talent and pure speed. It's about how to put a race weekend together. And I think he's managed to do that. And then, one result builds onto another one. And it's helped that obviously the Mercedes has been performing better in a way. So obviously it's easier to get the good results in. But I think it's just the fact that him and George are performing at such a good level as well. It's probably what's going to make the difference in that P2 fight, I think, when we're coming into the sharp end of this field.
Yeah, something's really clicked, hasn't it? It's all those processes. We'll see how he goes here this weekend, but ready to deliver a performance for Mercedes in that fight for P2. George Russell was on pole last year. James, let's take a closer look at this track in the best way possible, and that's at the hands of George Russell, sticking it right on pole.
Yeah, let's take a look at how he did it. So you can see right as he comes to start the lap, weaving down that straight into turn 17, because that is going to be such a big part of qualifying, getting those Pirellis into the right window. And then here he starts the lap quick, front straight down into turn 1 and 2. There's multiple lines you can run through here. It's fun to watch. And then look through 3, just barely a lift, and then pins it through 4. Unbelievable, the grip in this Mercedes on those soft tires. Down the straight to turn 5, first DRS zone, over 210 miles an hour, just short. Got to pick your brake zone for turn 4. The front end of that Mercedes working so well. And then it goes into the really technical middle sector here, breaking through turn 6 into 7. So easy to lock up that inside front. Back through that little bit of a Mickey Mouse, turn 8 in front of the sphere. And then look at him sawing at the wheel into turn 9. You can tell he doesn't really have either axle where he wants it to. Fighting the front end, fighting the back end mid-corner, and then you go through the flat-out turn 11, turn into turn 12 here, onto that back straight. So many traction events here at this Vegas racetrack, and that's where the Mercedes was really hooked up. The front was good, but the power down was great as you head on to one of the most famous roads in all of the world, one of the coolest bits of racetrack we have all year long. Just look at that speedometer climb, 215, 216 miles an hour. So many passing opportunities at this racetrack. We saw a ton of action here in the last few years through this last little chicane, 14, 15, 16, and then again, you're essentially on a straight now through that final corner, the fastest one in Formula One, cornering it over 200 miles an hour in 1:32.3. That was what got it done 1 year ago for George Russell. We will see what it takes this year.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you very much, James, as ever, for talking us round this incredible track. Lawrence, we've actually driven this on the sim, haven't we?
We have, yes,
quite
right
poorly,
in this building.
quite
I just
poorly
remembered,
from my side of things anyway, for sure. I don't think I actually got a clean lap in.
No, you didn't.
You sound like a driver. That's what most of them say.
I didn't look like one, I can tell you that. James, you mentioned the overtaking opportunities. Where are those key flashpoints to watch?
Well, that's what's so cool about this racetrack. I mean, the average number of passes, I know we've only had the 2 races, but still, it's about 80 to 100% higher than the season average. 60 passes, 70 passes possible here. You can do it into turn 1. It's a short front straight, but it really starts all the way back in turn 16. This whole run here through 17, great passing opportunity there. DRS zone in between 4 and 5, you can get it done there. If you're really brave, you want to try to throw it on the inside of 7, that difficult turning and braking zone. We saw George Russell make a couple moves there in that first year, and then of course at the end of the strip there into turn 14, we saw some incredible moves there. Charles Leclerc last lap pass. I mean, there are lots of places to make moves here at this racetrack.
And it gets even better because last year this was a 2-stop. After the thrills of Brazil and seeing a two-stop mostly across the board there, Ruth, will we see it again here in Vegas?
Well, I don't think anybody knows. It's a kind of question of red or black, one stop or two stop, and it all comes from the setup of the car. Now, if you look at this track, it looks like it's just straight line speed. But the reality is the setup choices define everything because it's all about the amount of grip that you can have through the corners that we do have here. This year, the graining's been a bit better, but this could be the coldest race we've had, all season. And the cold graining here on that front is so extreme. So it's going to be an interesting one. And I personally think we've got more drivers with more to lose and more to win. So I think it's going to be a little spicier than last year's race in terms of things like safety car chances, virtual safety car chances. Got a lot of guys that haven't driven around here before. So I think all of that's going to set up the strategy nicely. And I hope we get a lot of overtaking just like we had before.
Excuse all the puns, but high risk, high reward, big stakes here
Oh.
for sure. Lawrence, you were speaking to a lot of those teams who are vying for P6 in the championship. Williams are a bit ahead, and they feel they've got an advantage here, but P6 to P9 is separated by just 20 points. Who do you think will come out on top this weekend between those four teams?
It's so difficult because Racing Bulls obviously had such a great weekend in Brazil and they'd been nowhere for such a long time. So I think it's just whether or not you can get your package in the right setup window from Friday onwards. I think of all of those teams, it's Haas for me is probably the most dangerous. They had that upgrade in Austin. A couple of years ago they brought one to Austin and it made their car worse. This time it's made it significantly better. And Ollie Behrman's on a run of 4 really good point scoring finishes, 2 top 6 finishes. He seems to have found something at that team. I don't know what it is, but the confidence is kind of unlocked. And he's putting Esteban Ocon, who is a handy driver, a race winner, in the shadows. So to be honest, based on kind of upgrades and the way that Red Bull have kept upgrading, Haas are kind of the midfield version of that. And I think they're probably the greatest threat going into this season, the end of the season.
Can I ask you on Ollie Behrman what his future may hold come 2027? What are you hearing? There's a few Ferrari rumours swirling, aren't there?
I think the thing is, when Ferrari obviously put him in the driver academy, they would aspire to eventually put him into the works team. That's the whole point of the driver academy. And I think, look, it's 4 really strong races, but that won't be enough, I don't think, early doors to put him in that seat. But obviously we don't know what Lewis is going to do in the long term. Again, while Charles got a long contract, we don't know what he's going to do in the slightly more medium term, I guess. But I think Ollie's doing everything that he can to put himself in that conversation and make a step up and prove that the junior academy works. Whether or not they've decided what they're doing in 2027, I don't think they have. But I think Ollie's doing exactly the kind of job that you would expect him to do. And he'll go from strength to strength.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. We'll keep you updated on all the news as ever here on F1 TV. Let's take a look then at the weekend schedule right here in Las Vegas. So building up to free practice 1 then at 4:15 p.m. here track time. This, of course, a night race. And then FP2 building up to that second hour of practice from 7:45 p.m. On to Saturday, 4:15 once again for FP3, that third hour of practice, which will be also important if it does rain on Thursday. Don't forget we're a day earlier. And then 7:30 p.m. building up to qualifying, 8 p.m. start for that hour in the battle for pole position, and of course all the reaction straight after in the post-qualifying show. And then on to race day, not Sunday, it's Saturday, 10 to 7 for your pre-race show here in Las Vegas, and an 8 p.m. start for your Las Vegas Grand Prix. All the reaction as ever on the post-race show. Okay, it's not just the one title fight we're keeping an eye on. This weekend, the F1 Academy title will be decided. There are just 9 points between Dorian Pant and Maya Vug, so eyes on that one. We'll hopefully get some reaction and action for you here on F1 TV for that. And don't forget, all of the F1 teams have recommitted to supporting F1 Academy drivers through 2026, and Cadillac also committing through 2027 as well. Brilliant, brilliant news. Okay, guys. Predictions and final thoughts, please. I think I know whose name may be at the top of this list.
I think, Max Verstappen, I guess that's who you're going to predict. Yeah, I think he is probably favourite, like Ruth was saying earlier. He's favourite for the race win. But I think the McLarens are going to be closer than they were last time. I couldn't believe that they've never qualified higher than 6th or finished a race higher than 6th around here. I think they'll be better because they learned their lessons. They proved that this year on tracks where they've struggled. I think we might get a Lewis Hamilton podium. I honestly think we're going to get a Ferrari on there. And I think this might be the one where Lewis kind of unlocks it and finally gets on the top on one of the steps.
One of the steps. So Max Verstappen, a Lewis Hamilton,
and a McLaren in between.
No Mercedes.
No, well, I can't put them all on there.
I know.
There's only
all top 8 drivers. Ruth.
Look, I'm going to go with my fellow shoe friend over here and say, look, the 2 races that Mercedes have won this year have been 2 of the warmest races of the season.
Yeah,
so
true.
I'm going to go Max, Lewis.
Okay. James.
Here's the thing. I agree with a lot of what my colleagues are saying.
Colleagues, not friends. Yes.
Well, no, in this capacity, I'm drawing off their knowledge, their experience in the sport. I'm going to go Max. I'm going to go Lando P2. And I still think the Mercedes will be sporty-ish. I think George is on good form, so I think George P3.
So we're not putting Oscar near the podium.
They can't all be on the podium, Laura.
They can't, but he's got to respond at some point, no, with this gap.
Yes. I think Qatar's that point. I don't just look. There's been so much talk about the low grip struggles. He definitely made some strides in that final stint in Mexico. Yes. You could see it. He talked about it after the race that he was trying things. His race was compromised because he was kind of in dirty air a lot of the time. But when he gets some clean air, he was playing with his driving style, learning how to get the speed out of it in these conditions. So I think the gap will be closer to Lando. But ultimately, Lando still has the experience of how to do this well in these conditions more than Oscar's still just figuring it out. So I still think Lando's going to have the edge. I think Oscar's going to be closer. So yeah.
I think it's going to be a stunning race, no matter what, isn't it? Thank you all so much for all of your insight through the weekend. That was your weekend warm-up. We're all a bit cold and jet lagged, so we'll leave it there. And we will see you once again for all the action this weekend. Tomorrow, I think, maybe tomorrow morning or afternoon or evening. We're not sure. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
A Saturday fight night like no other.
The atmosphere here is electrifying.
It is time for the main event.
It's Vegas, baby.
And Formula One goes racing on the streets of Las Vegas. It's game on at the front of the field.
A lot of drama.
Look at this scene. Amazing brawling.
I like when the cars go.
Vegas is putting on a show.
It's a big spectacle.
This city of lights has been a storied sporting stage for decades. George Russell will look up and see the checkered flag first. Max Verstappen is a 4-time world champion.
Oh my God, what a season.